friends, Jen Cassell here. I am back with a video that I think is going to be extremely useful for you guys. I am going to go over all of my tips and tricks for creating 3D projects, whether it's, die cutting with your Sizzix using my favorite Scrap Diva dies. You can also apply these to any of your Cricut projects as well. This is going to cover anything 3D, right? And I wanted to do this because there's a new die that's coming out in the February release that I absolutely love. I know it's going to be one of my favorites. We're actually going to go through all of the dies that kind of fit into this box making strip category that she has. And when I use them, what I use them for, we're just going to kind of go through all these 3Ds. So I started with this project right here, and I made a hot air balloon box. But before I tell you a little bit about this, here is her website and all of the info on the back. Make sure to use that hashtag Scrap Diva Designs for some amazing inspiration. And as always, if I've inspired you in any way, please feel free to use my coupon code GEN10 to save at checkout. I super appreciate everyone who uses my coupon code and affiliate link. I do get a small kickback, and it helps me continue to create free content for you guys. New this month, we have the Slim Box Making Strips die, and that is what I use to create this adorable little hot air balloon here. These strips, I've always said that you're going to have to pry the box making strips from my cold dead hands, because that is hands down my most used die of anything that I have in my stash. And I have a lot of dies. But this is a little different because they're much thinner. So I'm not going to show the die because it hasn't been released yet. But I will say that you're going to get a 1-inch strip. You're going to get a 3/4 inch strip, and then you're also going to get a 1/2 inch strip. Your original dies, now I keep all of my box making strips together, whether it's the original box making strips kit or the card making kit, I believe it's called. I'm not really sure. I'll check while I'm in here. But this is the original box making strips. You can tell how old these are by the packaging. So you get 2 sets of strips in here, and these ones are 2 and 2.5 inches thick. So you are essentially getting all of these in the 1 inch, the 3/4 inch, and the 1/2 inch strip. Now, you're also getting a second page of dies on this. So behind this, you're also getting, and once again, I'm not showing you all of them, it's these same dies here. They're the same width. So you have the 3/4 inch, the full inch, and then the 1/2 inch, but they don't have the tabs on the opposite side, which, if I'm making a box like this, is super helpful, because if I was using these original box making strips, I'm usually cutting them in half, or I am removing the tabs from one end. I'm always modifying them in a different way. So these ones are nice because they're very just cut them out and everything's golden. Also, these ones are coming with a stitched layering piece as well. So you get a stitched layering piece for all 6 of the main dies in here. So this is a lot of dies right here. Very, very cool. So I used the hot air balloon die that came out last month. And that was a fun one. I knew I was going to be redoing this die as soon as I did it. So my original one I did as a Valentine's Day, and I made it into a really cute little card. So this is a fun die set. I knew I kind of wanted to make a box, and I knew I kind of wanted to play with the baby collection. So the Oh Baby collection came out last month as well. I did do a fun baby themed project with it, but for this one I really kind of wanted to keep it not baby. I don't have a whole lot of baby things happening in my life. I'm a little, I'm 46 years old, so I don't have a whole lot of babies in my life right now. Never had kids. But this, I thought, just gave a really cool spring vibe. I am always looking for little birthday boxes or something like that. That is something that I have a lot of in my life. So I did this as a cute little birthday box. And you could put a gift card in here. You could put, if you're sending some happy mail to a friend. I was thinking how cute this would be with some flowers stacked inside of it for your friend's project. So really, really cute set. And I use the 1 inch and the 3/4 of an inch box making strip for this set. The first thing that I want to talk about is your paper choice. So this matters more than you think. I have a sweet spot of between 80 and 100-pound cardstock for making any boxes. What are the papers that I always run to? Obviously, I love my Encore. You've heard me talk about it before. I find that at 12 by 12 cardstock shop. Absolutely love it. It's a really solid paper to use in your 3D card or in your 3D projects. It does have I prefer the textured, and there's a textured side, and there's also a smooth side on this cardstock as well. This cardstock is about 80 pounds. I don't go lower than 80 because when your paper's too thin, you're going to get warping on it. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, if your paper is too thick, so think 110-pound cardstock. If I'm doing a box like this that has a lot of curvature to it, I'm not using 110-pound cardstock. Honestly, I don't use 110-pound cardstock on too many projects nowadays anyways. I would rather just build the heaviness up by using layers. And when you're using that 110-pound cardstock, you're going to crack your score lines pretty easily, which is something that we really don't want. And when I am using a heavier cardstock, if I am cutting it out with a die set, I'm going to go over that score line lightly with my scoring board. And I'll do it twice lightly versus one hard press. And I think that gives you much better score line than if you just, really dig it in. All right. Because once again, it leads to cracking. So you're going to want to score first and fold second. Your direction matters. So if I am using, this is just a scrap that I have left over from my box. So there's obviously a score line in these tabs. So this is how it would look when I am just having it sit here. I'm going to fold in this direction. It's going to be easier to fold in that direction. And that's also going to help prevent tearing of the paper. Now, it's also important that you use your bone folder after you've already scored. And what I mean by this is I am going to fold down all of these tabs first. I'm not using my bone folder to actually bring those in. Fold the tabs by hand first, and then go over with your bone folder to really press it down. That too is going to help prevent tearing. For boxes, I want to score all of my lines first before gluing anything together. So if I'm doing a project like this per se, so this is one of my favorites, and all of these are nice straight edges here. I'm going to score all of these first before gluing anything together. That alone is going to help you prevent crooked boxes, because it's the worst when you have everything glued together and you think that you have it, so precise. And then as you start to fold on your score lines, you realize you've glued everything wrong and your box isn't fitting properly. So it's really, really important that you score and then you start gluing. And speaking of which, you're going to want to dry fit everything. So you check your tab alignment, check the box squareness before you start gluing. When I'm doing a project like this, I am going to go through all of my tabs once I've folded and scored them. And once again, talking about that bone folder, I'm always going to bring out my bone folder and curve that paper when I am making something with a lot of curvature. That helps break your paper down, and it's going to sit more closely to the sides of your box. So your bone folder isn't just for scoring. It's also kind of just like curling ribbon, essentially. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm dry fitting it first to make sure that it goes all the way around it, and B, if I have parts like this down here where there's a lot of curvature, it gets a little wonky in some spots. I also know that I'm going to take that paper off and re-curl it a couple of times just to loosen those fibers up a little bit so that it'll go around your edge nicely. Dry fit first. And this is also important when you're mixing pattern paper and solids. Now, for instance, this actually started as just like a demo box, and then I just decided to keep going because it was really cute and I didn't care. However, when I started playing with these for the first time, I did not account that there was going to be some spacing issues in this. So what I would recommend, if you have to do a larger box like this where you're doing several strips together, put your strips together and then place your pattern paper on afterwards so that you're avoiding these little gaps in here. That way you can just line everything up so that it looks more like this than like this. But that's okay. I can always cover these up if I wanted to. I could do a little bridge in here with another one of these papers. There's a lot of different ways you can cover it up. I really wasn't worrying about it because I wanted to get this video out now. Next up, let's talk adhesives. So I always tend to go for liquid glue first off to put together my 3D projects. I always choose Barely Art. I love Barely Art craft glue. It dries quickly. It comes with a couple different caps that I absolutely love to control your glue flow. And if you haven't tried it, I am a Barely Art affiliate. I was on their design team for many, many years. Adhesive is something that I definitely know. You can use my coupon code JenCassell to save. I absolutely love Barely Art. You will not go wrong. One of the reasons that I will always choose Barely Art over Art Glitter Glue is the fact that I live in a cold weather climate. And if you've ever tried to buy art glitter glue, most reputable sales will not ship you art glitter glue during the winter. The cold temperatures cause art glitter glue to separate, and your glue is worthless after that. Barely Art does not separate in cold temperatures. I've never had a problem with the glue separating. I have a ton of it. I stand by the product. However, I find that liquid glue and hot glue are your best combination for any 3D projects. I like to use, this is my Surebonder hot glue gun. I've used a Surebonder for many, many years. I love them. I love the fact that it is cordless and it will stay hot up to 90 seconds off your charging port, which if you're not familiar, this is what your charging port looks like for the Surebonder hot glue guns. It's unobtrusive. This is my favorite one. I've always had the black one, but I got this one as a gift at Christmas. This is the Lynn Lily one, and I love the color. It's gorgeous. And very little drippage, too, I noticed from this. Not too bad. And even if you did, you've got this great silicone pad on it. So, all right. So, obviously, I love my liquid glue. It's perfect for positioning and clean seams. However, hot glue offers an instant hold on stress points. That's why I use them in combination with one another. When I talk about stress points, I'm talking about this right here. So there's a lot less stress on your paper when you are going over larger curves. Not so much so when you've got a more intricate curve down here, right? So these are your stress points. You can see it on this one too. This is one of my favorite boxes that I've created. So it's really easy to kind of come in here along these long curves, and then you've got a straight edge right here. But when you're talking about this right here, this is a lot of stress on the paper. It's a deeper curve. And as you can see, you know, sometimes it's tough to like really get that in there when you're creating a 3D, you know, box from something 2D. And when you're designing a 2D die or SVG file, you're not really taking it into account that. You know, so it's any of your 2D images are just going to have a lot of curvature. On this one that I did, when I made this box, I avoided those curves. I knew that the curves were going to be, you know, very difficult to work with, that it's such small spacing in there. I avoided that by doing a straight edge box on these two sides, and I avoided the curve on this with this box as well. I'm also going to use my liquid glue on any decorative panels and long seams such as this. I'm going around this long seam right here. I'm going along these long seams. I probably used a little hot glue right here and around these edges. And then I'm also going to use it on any of my decorative panels as well. Hot glue doesn't get as thin as liquid glue, and liquid glue has a lot better staying power than hot glue. So I'm always going to do my decorative panel with those. And when I say use them together, even when I'm using hot glue in a project to place some of my high stress tabs or something like that, I'm still putting liquid glue down first. And I'm going to wait until that liquid glue is a little on the tacky side before applying the hot glue on there. That way you're getting the instant bond of the hot glue, but you're also getting the staying power and durability of the liquid. Also, let's talk about glue control. One of the reasons that I love using Barely Art in my 3D projects is because of the tips that it comes with. So right now, I just have the regular tip on this one right here, which does give you a decent amount of glue on there. But if I'm doing really intricate 3D cut files or dies, I'm switching over to this extra fine tip. And that really controls the amount of glue that's going on your project, because less glue equals better staying power. So you're going to get a much stronger hold when you're applying less glue to your project than you are when you're using a lot more of it. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. And the more glue that you're using as well, it's going to be a much longer dry time. So you're going to be sitting there for a while. Also, when it comes to glue, I also have a glue eraser, which this is from Dollar Tree. I've had it for years. They you know, you'll buy one and you'll have it forever. Or if you don't have one of these, keep a baby wipe close by and immediately clean up any of your glue spills. And that's really going to give you a more professional look in the long run. You're also going to want to let your pieces grab before moving on to another tab. So whenever I'm doing these 3D boxes, and I'm going to link a whole bunch of my box tutorials in the description box if you want to see how it's done. One of the things that you see in all of these tutorials when I start doing my tabs is I always glue at least 1 or 2 tabs down first before doing the rest of the project. That's going to make sure and make sure that those tabs are really glued down before you continue on to the other tabs on your page. That gives you a strong hold bond, and it allows you to move a lot quicker through it. There is nothing worse than when your tabs start flipping up after you've moved along to your other tab. Next up, we're going to talk about squaring your boxes out like a pro. All right. So you've heard me say it several times, but use your work surface. You will not get the same bond by just holding the pieces in your fingers as you will by setting them on your work surface and pressing them with your bone folder or even your fingers. But using that work surface really helps get a nice tight bond for you. And I also like to use, this is especially important when I'm doing boxes like this that have these squared edges. I bring out, this is just an acrylic block for stamping, but I like to actually use this in the corners to make sure that I have a nice 90-degree angle when I'm doing boxes like this. It's going to work like a carpenter's square. And it is super helpful for maintaining a good shape of your boxes. Also remember to flip and check from all of your angles before the glue sets. So as I'm doing, lids or something like this, as I'm pressing these tabs down, I like to make sure that I'm flipping it to the opposite side to make sure that there's no gaps inside this, and you can kind of start to see like a little tab popping through or something like that. So make sure that you're kind of turning it as you're working. You may not see that as often in my tutorials because I do try to edit them down for time flow. But what you're not seeing is me repeatedly flipping that project and making sure that everything is where it's supposed to be before that glue really sets down. Yet another reason why I like to use my liquid glue when I'm doing 3D projects is it gives me just that little bit of wiggle room. If I'm using a double-sided tape on this sort of thing, which I never get accurate to begin with, I will level with you. I consider myself pretty much a paper crafting pro, and I can't get a double-sided tape perfect. I'm not going to kid myself any longer. And if any tabs pops up as I go through it at the very end, I'll use some hot glue to kind of put those down. That way I know that my glue is kind of tacky still. And then I just add the hot glue to it on top. Brings it to, when I'm doing projects like this, you may want to reinforce high stress areas. So what do I mean by that? So you can use a little extra hot glue on those areas, especially on the interior. That'll kind of help make sure that your seams stay sharp. Or you can just add another piece of cardstock. So for instance, if I am using these ones right here, I'm not going to use a second layer of the stitch layering piece. I'm just going to cut the tabs off this side and use a second layer without your tabs to reinforce. I also always remember to double up my bases. So for something like this right here, my lid consists of 4 different pieces. So on the interior, I have my pattern paper piece. I then have a cardstock layer underneath that. And then I also have the pattern paper here and then a cardstock layer on the outside. I put these tabs around this layer right here. So I did 2 layers of the pattern paper and the cardstock. I added my tabs and then I covered up my tabs with the cardstock and pattern paper layer here. Assembly order matters. We're going to fold all of our score lines. We're going to assemble the sides. We're going to reinforce the bottom or the top lid. Make sure that when you're doing your lid, you're dry fitting it that top to make sure that it's going to go on properly. So I do the bottom of the box first and then the lid second. And then lastly, you're going to decorate. I never add the decoration to it first. You're going to result in crushed embellishments and warped panels when you try doing it that way. So just leave your decorating to the end. With this one right here, I assembled the box completely. So I did everything but this layer right here and then all of my decoration. I added the pattern paper last and then I went through and decorated it. And finally, we're going to talk about some pattern paper tricks. So if I'm doing a handmade box, so if I'm just doing, a box with score lines and I'm creating my own, I'm always cutting my pattern paper panels slightly smaller. You're going to watch the directionality of your pattern paper, especially with stripes and florals. Really easy to get those messed up. And then I'm always using a solid cardstock base along with a pattern paper layer to finish. You can see that in this one right here. You can see it in this one right here, this one right here, and even in this one right here, because this is something that stays on my desk all the time. And I love adding just that slight border, and I think it gives a really professional look to it. So if you made it this far, thank you so, so much. You are not going to want to sit on this slim box making strip set. Comes out February 5th over at the shop. So, so good. I'm not even kidding myself. This isn't even going to stay in this packaging. It's going straight into my box making strips bag. I mean, look at the condition of this bag alone. That's how much I use this set. I really need to switch it out. And you know, does that mean that I'm not going to be using any of my other box making strips dies? No, 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 no. You use them in addition to these dies. I'm going to love to pair this 2.5 inch strip along with these smaller, you know, 1 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch strips. And, you know, I also keep, this is the third set of box making strips that I use. This is the card making and box making made easy. I use these in combination with one another. These ones are really cool because you can take any stripe or any strip of paper and essentially make it into, you know, one of these dies. You also have, this is great for boxes and card making. You have your longer seams right here in a few different widths as well. So this is all going to go into one die set, and I promise that I will switch this bag out before my release video. We won't make you look at that ever again. So thank you so much for watching. I super appreciate it. So don't forget to head on over to Scrap Diva Designs and check out the February release on the 5th. There are so many good die sets. I can't wait to show you everything that I've been creating. I am on track to finish all of the die sets. I think I have 2 more to go, and today is Sunday, so I've got like 3 days to finish it. So I will definitely have all of the dies completed. So thank you again, and I hope this helps. Please feel free to ask any questions in the comments. I will try to get them as soon as possible. And tell me what your favorite tips are. What are you getting from this video? So if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more crafty content. I'll see you in the next crafty video. Bye.